Tonight, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard come to Dane County, while the two former Democrats are raising support for Donald Trump. Plus, seeking more school funding, the budget proposal being put on the ballot for Janesville voters. And consumer confidence is on the rise. What has Americans feeling more optimistic about the economy? It's all ahead on News 3 Now at 10. Well, it will be quiet tonight. Keep an eye on the radar tomorrow. Jacob on the weather patio with more on our chances for severe weather. Jacob.
Yeah, we have an alert day in the forecast, and that will bring an end to this warm weather we have been seeing. Now, taking a look at the current temperatures, it is still very, very comfortable out here. The normal high for this time of year is 54 degrees, and sunset was a few hours ago. We're still in the lower 70s. Now, as we look across the area, this is the case for all of central and southern Wisconsin. I also want to talk about the fact that we did break a record, or tied the record, for the warmest temperature in Madison for today. The high was 82, which is right on par with the record, but the low temperature was 11 degrees warmer than the normal high. So that really goes to show you just how unseasonably mild it is, and the biggest reason for that is the southerly wind, which is bringing in all the warm air. Still seeing wind speeds up to around 20 to 25 miles per hour for a few locations. The winds are going to continue to be gusty for tomorrow and Halloween. Now, looking at the forecasted lows tonight, we may not even get out of the 70s. That's how mild it's going to be overnight. The record for the warmest low temperature tonight is 58 degrees. We may be over 10 degrees above that level, so just ridiculously mild for this time of the year. But the line of storms that could be severe will bring an end to this warm weather. I'll talk more in detail about the timing of the rainfall coming up a little bit later.
Jacob, thank you. Now, with just 1 week until Election Day, both campaigns are making their final push in battleground Wisconsin, and Dane County is a big part of that, and that's why the Trump campaign sent two former Democrats to one of the bluest counties in the state tonight, hoping to turn out the vote for the former President Donald Trump. Our Braden Ross was there when former Representative Tulsi Gabbard and former presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. took the stage at Alliant Energy Center. Braden?
Yeah, these two spoke for more than an hour to a full house at the Alliant Energy Center this evening, sharing why they left the Democratic Party this year and why they say others should too.
How many of you here are Democrats or used to be Democrats? Raise your hands.
As you might imagine, in deep blue Dane County, plenty of hands went up. But the message from Gabbard and Kennedy Tuesday night?
You are not alone.
Both former Democrats who have now spent weeks on the campaign trail stumping for Trump.
I have heard over and over again people say, don't bother going to Madison. We're ignoring them, naturally.
But why are they ignoring that advice? Well, to reach voters like this.
I was going to vote for him, no question.
I've had this shirt since June of 2023. A very big supporter, was going to vote for him.
In early July, about 15% of registered voters supported Kennedy's bid for president. Many of them backed him because he offered an alternative to the two major parties.
You know, with Kennedy, he just seems to have an understanding of how the government works and where some of the, the pitfalls in our government are.
That's a message Kennedy drove home to voters today.
But the Democratic Party that I grew up with is gone. She has pocketed and touted proudly the endorsements by Dick Cheney and by John Bolton. These are the people who gave us the Iraq War, the worst foreign policy catastrophe in the history of mankind, of our country.
Gabbard slamming the Democratic Party for its stance on transgender athletes.
The Democrat elite of today reject the existence of objective truth. In this case, the fact that there are biological differences between men and women.
And while many of the voters here don't resonate with everything about Trump, Kennedy's endorsement was enough to convince them to cast their ballots in his favor.
He said in his speech when he dropped out of the campaign that this is the only way he felt he could get these things done, is by endorsing Trump and being part of a Trump administration. And I think it's going to be huge.
To be honest, Trump can be grating. He can be unpleasant. But there are more important fish to fry this year.
Now, Kennedy also addressed today's news that the United States Supreme Court rejected his request to be removed from Wisconsin ballots. He told supporters tonight he wants them to ignore his name and check the box for Trump on Election Day.
All right, Braden, as you mentioned, the Supreme Court rejecting that emergency appeal to remove Robert F. Kennedy Jr. from the presidential ballot in 2 battleground states. Kennedy wanted to get off the ballot here in Wisconsin, as she just mentioned, but also in Michigan after dropping his independent bid and endorsing former President Trump. He argued that keeping his name on violates his First Amendment rights. Michigan and Wisconsin both said removing the name with early voting underway would be simply impossible. The justices did not detail their reason in rejecting that emergency appeal. Former President Trump will make 2 appearances in Wisconsin in the coming days. Tomorrow, he'll be joined by former Packers quarterback Brett Favre for a rally at the Resch Center in Green Bay. Then on Friday, he'll stop in Milwaukee at Fiserv Forum. Both rallies are expected to focus on inflation and Trump's economic policies. And Vice President Kamala Harris now making 2 stops in Wisconsin ahead of Election Day. The first takes place tomorrow on the in Madison. And Vice President Harris will be joined by several musical acts. She is also set to return to appear in Milwaukee on Friday. The exact location and time has yet to be announced on both of those. We just know the one in Madison is in Madison. We don't know it is not on the UW campus. Harris's team has called her final days on the campaign trail extremely aggressive. Election security now a concern after fires at 2 ballot boxes on the West Coast. Incendiary devices were set off at the ballot boxes in Oregon and in Washington. Hundreds of ballots were destroyed in the state of Washington. A fire suppression system in the Oregon box extinguished the flames there, and only 3 ballots were damaged. The crimes bring up questions about the security of ballots during the hotly contested election, but election law experts say these cases are extremely isolated.
Away 45 states in D.C. offering early voting right now. You can probably go vote early in person, as I did this past weekend. It was incredibly quick and easy. You can return your mail ballot at this point. I think put it in a drop box, or if you're a little bit worried about that, take it right to an election office right now. I wouldn't put it in the mail because we're only 7 days away.
Now, police have released pictures of a vehicle that may be connected to those fires. Well, you've heard a lot about the Madison School District referendum on the ballot, but it is far from being the only school district in our area going to property owners for extra funding. This year, the School District of Janesville has 2 questions on the ballot. And to address operational needs, the district is asking residents to approve a $14.5 million referendum that'll last 2 school years. This would replace the 4-year referendum ending this year that voters approved in 2020. So residents would not see any estimated property tax increase.
We want to be able to continue to provide high curriculum resources, and without this operational referendum, we wouldn't be able to do those things at the level we do now. And because of that, then we'd have less people to be able to provide opportunities for the same amount of kids. So our 9,500 kids and parents are going to expect the same amount of opportunities and outcomes with more than 100 less people.
Now, the other referendum question is addressing the first phase of maintenance needs at the district's 20 facilities. The total cost of the capital maintenance needs is about $578 million. If voters approve the phase 1 next Tuesday, the district would complete those projects and then talk with residents about what they should prioritize for phase 2 before figuring out the cost. Overall enrollment in the Universities of Wisconsin System's 4-year schools is on the rise. Data shows enrollment on the 10th day of this year's fall semester stood at more than 164,000 students. That's up 1.2% from last fall. Overall enrollment at the system's 2-year branch campuses fell 22%. Officials blame the declining number of high school graduates and more graduates not going to college for that drop. A new proposal looks to invest millions of dollars to retain teachers in Wisconsin. The State Department of Public Instruction says $59.5 million is needed to recruit and retain Wisconsin teachers. About 39% of teachers leave the state or profession altogether in their first 6 years. Under the proposed biennial budget, DPI would provide a $10,000 stipend for student teachers, use more than $7 million to expand a peer review and mentoring grant program, and work to eliminate barriers to educator licensing.
Our budget request is going to be investing in the teacher workforce. Learning why, certainly teachers are leaving is very important to us so that we can address those underlying issues. But we need to invest, and we need to invest also in recruitment as well as in retention of our teachers.
At a roundtable today, DPI heard from state, district, and teacher representatives. Many of their concerns centered around investing in special education, diversifying staff, and continual support for educators. Job openings fell to pre-pandemic levels in September. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, there were an estimated 7.4 million unfilled jobs on the last day of September. That's down 400,000 positions from August. The number of job openings fell below economists' expectations of 7.9 million, but despite slowed hiring, Data shows workers still remain in demand. Americans are feeling more optimistic about the future of both the labor market and the broader U.S. economy. That's according to the Conference Board's latest consumer survey. It shows that consumer confidence index jumped in October by the fastest clip since March of 2021. And the number of consumers anticipating a recession over the next 12 months dropped to its lowest level since July of 22. Americans say they're more upbeat over recent stock market gains and lower interest rates. After the break, Jacob tells us about the chance for severe weather coming our way tomorrow, plus a drop in foot traffic at McDonald's restaurants, how the most recent outbreak of E. coli is affecting the fast food giant. That's just ahead. Stay with us.
I'm a steel worker. I grew up right here on the little family farm. Trump was here campaigning with Elon Musk. Now there's a prime example of who he keeps close. Donald Trump cares about his billionaire friends. He's just going to turn around and give them more tax breaks. But Kamala Harris is fighting for the working class. She'll make billionaires pay their fair share. That way working people get a fair shot. Elon Musk is voting for his money, and I'm voting for mine. And I'm voting for Kamala Harris.
FFPAC is responsible for the content of this ad.
Stanton Optical believes eye care should be affordable. Right now, for only $135, you get 2 pairs of progressives, plus all this. All that costs over $200 everywhere else. Book your eye exam today. Stanton Optical, easy's our thing. Welcome to Too Good to Guess. Can you guess how much 2 pairs of progressives, a free eye exam, and anti-glare lens upgrade will cost at Stanton Optical? Only $135? Wow, a deal so good, every customer wins. Book your eye exam at Stanton Optical today.
You have a clear choice in this election. Senator Baldwin is a 38-year career politician. I'm a businessman and job creator. She supports taxpayer benefits for illegal immigrants. I'll close the border. Tammy wants to put guys and girls sports in their bathrooms. I'll protect our daughters. Senator Baldwin abuses the political system. I'll fight the corruption. I'm Eric Hovde, and I approve this message. I'd be honored to have your vote.
They've been rocking audiences for decades. It's Foghat. Performing live November 30th at Ho-Chunk Gaming, Wisconsin Dells.
I just want to make
with special guest, The Empty Pockets. Tickets are on sale now through Ticketmaster. Legendary rock band Foghat. Live in concert November 30th at Ho-Chunk Gaming, Wisconsin Dells. Your odds are better here.
Insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
Kamala wouldn't change a thing? Their weakness invited wars, welfare for illegals, while Americans struggle. Now Kamala wants higher taxes on top of higher prices. We can't afford 4 more years of Kamala.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. Why hasn't she done it?
4 years, radical Kamala Harris created the border crisis. Thousands of accused murderers, rapists, even terrorists pour in. Each crime they commit makes American victims. Innocent victims of Kamala's open border agenda. They were bludgeoned, raped, strangled, stabbed, shot, and murdered. Kamala created the border crisis. She won't fix it now. Make America Great Again, Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Insurance costs going up? Erie Insurance has great coverages, rates, and claim service. And your rates won't increase because of celebrity advertising campaigns or sports stadium sponsorships. Call Affordable Insurance Solutions for your auto, home, or business quote and see what Erie Insurance could do for you.
You're watching News 3 Now at 10.
McDonald's held a call with investors about the E. coli outbreak keeping customers out of restaurants. Visits to McDonald's went down 10% last week nationwide, 33% in Colorado where the outbreak was most prevalent. The Colorado Department of Agriculture said the company's beef patties have tested negative for E. coli. McDonald's says it'll start selling the quarter pounders again in all restaurants this week. Well, whether you're hiring professionals or opting to do it yourself, home construction projects can be risky. A recent survey by LendingTree found over 10 years, floors and flooring materials caused more than 18 million injuries. Countertops saw the largest increase in injuries at 32%. On average, women accounted for 56% of home construction injuries. For men, it was 44%. The good news is DIY injuries are down nearly 7% from 2014. A new national survey finds more adults may have undiagnosed ADHD, the disorder typically thought of as a childhood condition, but a survey commissioned by Ohio State's Wexner Medical Center and College of Medicine found that out of 1,000 adults, 25% think they may have undiagnosed ADHD, but only 13% of those surveyed shared their suspicions with their doctor.
I think it's always important to talk to your doctor because there are many people who are struggling with anxiety and depression, and part of the criteria for those diagnoses are attention problems. So difficulty with concentration, distractibility. So those can mimic something like ADHD. And for many, like if you give them medication to focus better, what are they focusing more on? Could it possibly be they're focusing more on their mood symptoms?
The survey found that younger adults are more likely to believe they have undiagnosed ADHD than older generations, but they're also more likely to do something about it. The clocks fall back an hour on Sunday. Health experts are offering tips to parents to help make that transition a little less of a headache. Daylight saving time ends this weekend. Doctors at UW Health recommend parents start to implement bedtime fading. That means adjusting a child's bedtime by 15-minute increments before the time change. Medical experts say one of the most important factors affecting sleep is sunlight exposure.
Waking up with the sun is helpful to set your clock, but then, exercising in the morning, avoiding caffeine in the afternoon, and having a really good established bedtime routine that's full of relaxing activities, reading a book, singing a song, brushing your teeth, and avoiding screens really, really close to your bedtime. It can go a long way and getting good sleep.
Doctors say parents can also use a small dose of over-the-counter melatonin about 30 minutes before bedtime to help with this transition. With the fall season in full swing, experts are offering tips to homeowners to keep out any unwanted pests. The National Pest Management Association says animals like rodents, cockroaches, and spiders can pose not only a threat to your property, but also your health. There are some steps you can follow to better protect your home. The association recommends screening attic vents and chimney openings, sealing cracks and crevices with caulk and steel wool, and storing firewood at least 20 feet from your home and keeping your plants well trimmed. It's been a dry couple of days across southern Wisconsin. Jacob, those spiders are thriving in this warm weather. We need to freeze them out, right?
Yeah, honestly, I really have seen a ton of them across southern Wisconsin, but we are going to see a good amount of rainfall over the next 7 days, and temperatures will cool down. So looking at the three things you need to know: stormy for Wednesday evening. Windy conditions will continue through Halloween, but by the time we get to Halloween, it will be a lot cooler, and the temperatures we see on Halloween will be pretty similar going forward. Now, let's first start with the wind gust forecast. It's going to remain windy throughout the night and into tomorrow. However, once that cold front moves through, we'll have a little bit of a break from the winds. Notice just behind the cold front, much calmer winds, and that's going to be the case for Wednesday night. But for Halloween, those winds are going to pick right back up, and we're going to see wind gusts up to around 30, maybe even 35 miles per hour at times. It will get a little bit better for trick-or-treating hours, but still going to be breezy at that time. And once we get to Friday morning, the winds really won't be a factor anymore. Now, let's take a look at the alert day. It is for the possibility of strong to severe storms Wednesday evening, especially for Madison and points westward. The further east and the further southeast you're located, the less likely you will see the severe weather. And again, this is for Wednesday evening into the early overnight hours. Winds will be the biggest hazard or most likely hazard. Minor hail is possible. Very unlikely we'll see a tornado, but can't completely rule it out. And we're also unlikely to see any flooding considering how dry we have been. Now here's a look at that rainfall forecast. We're going to remain cloudy throughout the night, but we should be dry. For Wednesday morning and early afternoon, we could see a few passing showers, but for the most part, we're going to continue to be dry. But as we look at late afternoon Wednesday, we'll see that line of storms move into the western portion of our area, and throughout the evening, it will push across southern and central Wisconsin. Again, some gusty winds and minor hail are possible with some of the storms, but we certainly are going to see heavy rain at times, and some parts of the area could see heavy rain for a few hours, and it's definitely going to bring some much needed moisture across southern Wisconsin. Now, as we head past midnight, the rain will begin to break up a little bit, and as we get towards Halloween morning, we're still going to see a few light showers, but a lot of that's going to clear out through the afternoon. So by peak trick-or-treating hours, we are going to be dry, but we're going to continue to be windy, and we also will be chilly. I do want to point out that central and northern Wisconsin could see some snowfall, especially northern Wisconsin. So early in the day on Halloween, those of you in Juneau, Adams, maybe even Marquette and Green Lake County, don't be surprised if you actually see a a few flurries. Now, looking at the full rainfall forecast, at least the precipitation forecast, we could be seeing over an inch of rain for a lot of the area, possibly close to 2 inches of rainfall, as we could see a few locations see consistent heavy rain for a few hours. Now, it is going to be going to remain cool for the end of the week, but pretty close to normal. Next week, we have more chances of rainfall, and for next week, it's not going to be quite as heavy for a short period of time, but we could be seeing consistent shower activity from Saturday night all the way through Wednesday. So with the rainfall to Wednesday and early next week, we are likely going to see significant improvements to the drought conditions.
And coming up in sports, the Badgers were back out on the court. How a freshman stood out in her Badger debut. That's next on News 3 Now.
News 3 Now First Warn Weather is brought to you by Lazy Boy Home Furnishings and Decor.
Discover a shopping and design experience as comfortable as the furniture. Lazy Boy Home Furnishings and Decor. Schedule your free design consultation today.
I'm Tammy Baldwin, and I approve this message.
Eric Hovde owns a $3 billion California bank. That's right, he owns it.
And a $7 million mansion on the beach.
Eric Hovde proposed $4 trillion in new tax breaks for rich guys just like him.
And to pay for it, Hovde would cut Social Security by 28%.
Slash Medicare 25%. And veterans benefits 40%. Outrageous. Now we know what's wrong with Eric Hovde. This guy is not for us.
We know what Joan Ballwig wants to do. Ban abortion and birth control. That's it. That's her plan. Sarah Kieski is focused on bringing costs down, and she has real plans to lower the cost of healthcare and housing, prescription drugs, and to cut your taxes. So if you want a candidate focused on banning abortion and birth control, that's Joan Ballwig. For everyone else, there's Sarah Kieski. She's running for state senate to finally bring costs down.
Shop the largest selection of Chevy trucks and SUVs in Wisconsin at Bergstrom Chevrolet. Lease a new Silverado 1500 starting at $355 a month, or a 24 Equinox EV starting at $299 a month. Stop in or shop and purchase at BergstromMadison.com.
Growing up here in southeast Wisconsin, hard work and getting things done are in Brian Stiles' DNA. It's why Stiles is recognized as a problem solver in Congress. He's fighting for Wisconsin families every day, combating high prices at the grocery store and gas pump. And Brian Stiles is protecting Social Security and Medicare because you've earned it. Brian Stiles, getting it done for southeast Wisconsin. Fair Shake is responsible for the content of this ad.
Dare to compare. Bob's Renegade versus my competitor's similar set. Both have power reclining seats, USB ports, and a storage console. But mine is $700 less. See how much you can save when you dare to compare. In store or at mybobs.com.
The problem with Todd Novak? He voted with his extreme party leaders 100% of the time, like voting against lower prescription prices. And Todd Novak authored the law to ban abortion in Wisconsin, with no exceptions for rape and incest. Todd Novak is with the extremists 100%, and he's hurting Wisconsin. Elizabeth Grabe will defend abortion rights, get more police funding, and bring down costs. Elizabeth Grabe for Assembly.
When I was 27, I was diagnosed with MS. That's life-altering news. I had to prioritize my health and start taking medication. Back then, these cost $6,000 a year. Now the generics cost 5 times that. Senator Baldwin claims she's fighting to lower drug prices, but she's taking millions from Big Pharma and works for them. I'm not taking their money. I'm Eric Hovde, and I approve this message. I'll fight the corruption and lower drug prices because I've lived it.
Wisconsin women's hockey is off to an undefeated start, and a big part of their success this season has been the play of Layla Edwards. In 10 games, she scored 10 goals, which is a team high, while also tallying 8 assists. And in last week's series against Bemidji State, Edwards became the 33rd player in program history to reach the 100-point club, a milestone she credits to her teammates.
I was looking down the bench, like, I've been alongside some really good players that have made this possible. So, yeah, just super thankful. It's an individual thing, so it doesn't mean too much to me, but I think it's really cool. And it shows, like I said, I'm playing with some of the best players in North America.
Her ceiling is whatever she wants it to be. And, she's continued to work. She's going to get more opportunities. And so I think her confidence is in good space.
Halfway through their Big Ten schedule, Wisconsin sits 9-1 in conference play, one game behind Nebraska, who comes to the Fieldhouse on Friday night. The Badgers have had the Huskers' number. They've won 11 out of the last 12 meetings, including the national championship game in 2021. This year's meeting isn't at that level, but it will go a long way to deciding who wins a Big Ten championship when it's all said and done.
Trying to win a Big Ten title, and you certainly don't want to fall 2 games behind with 9 to go. That's going to be pretty hairy thing to come back from. And so, not only will we learn a little bit more about ourselves, but you're playing one of the top teams in the country, and the Big Ten title goes through them.
Wisconsin hosting UW-Stevens Point in their lone tune-up before the season opener. Jovana Spazowski was making plays in her Badger debut. The freshman from Serbia takes it to the cup for 2+1. She finished with 11 points. And then later, Ronnie Porter doing Ronnie Porter things. The steal and then the dine and dash. 6 points, 4 rebounds, 3 steals, and 2 assists from her. 4 Badgers finish in double figures in the 72-41 win. The real season begins next Tuesday against Wright State. Don't forget to check out this week's Wisconsin Huddle. C.J. Williams returns to the show to break down UW's first trophy game of their season as they get ready to head down to Iowa City to take on Iowa. Show starts at 6:30 on Friday right here on News 3 Now. And the Yankees survived to play another day. New York beat L.A. 11-4 in Game 4 of the World Series. First pitch for Game 5 set for 7:08 on Wednesday in the Bronx. We're back after this.
I'm Joan Balwig, and I'm here to set the record straight. I support birth control, the life and health of mothers, extending postpartum care, and fertility treatments, including IVF. I'm Joan Balwig. I have always fought for Wisconsin moms, and I always will.
I'm Tammy Baldwin, and I approve this message.
Eric Hovde owns a $3 billion California bank. That's right, he owns it.
And a $7 million mansion on the beach.
Eric Hovde proposed $4 trillion in new tax breaks for rich guys just like him.
And to pay for it, Hovde would cut Social Security by 28%.
Slash Medicare 25%. And veterans benefits 40%. Outrageous. Now we know what's wrong with Eric Hovde. This guy is not for us.
So let's get one thing straight. When Donald Trump talks about cutting Social Security and Medicare, it's like spitting in the face of America's seniors. We paid into these programs for our entire careers, and he would just cut them? Why? He wants to give another tax cut to the super rich, which they don't need. I know that Kamala Harris will protect our Social Security because she understands why it's so important for so many of us.
FFPAC is responsible for the content of this ad.
Insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
Kamala wouldn't change a thing? Their weakness invited wars, welfare for illegals, while Americans struggle. Now Kamala wants higher taxes on top of higher prices. We can't afford 4 more years of Kamala.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
We know what Joan Balwig wants to do. Ban abortion and birth control. That's it. That's her plan. Sarah Kieski is focused on bringing costs down, and she has real plans to lower the cost of healthcare and housing, prescription drugs, and to cut your taxes. So if you want a candidate focused on banning abortion and birth control, that's Joan Balwig. For everyone else, there's Sarah Kieski. She's running for state senate to finally bring costs down.
Rebecca Cook believes our parents and grandparents should be able to age with dignity. In Congress, she'll vote to strengthen Social Security and Medicare by repealing the tax on benefits, lowering the eligibility age for Medicare, and allowing Medicare to negotiate lower drug costs so our seniors get the prescription drugs they need at prices they can afford. Rebecca Cook, a homegrown Wisconsinite who fights for what's right. Project 218 is responsible for the content of this ad.
The problem with Todd Novak? He voted with his extreme party leaders 100% of the time, like voting against lower prescription prices. And Todd Novak authored the law to ban abortion in Wisconsin, with no exceptions for rape and incest. Todd Novak is with the extremists 100%, and he's hurting Wisconsin. Elizabeth Grabe will defend abortion rights, get more police funding, and bring down costs. Elizabeth Grabe for Assembly.
Sarah Kieski, she supports lifting revenue limits, allowing property tax rates to skyrocket unchecked. Kieski's backers want to ban natural gas to heat our homes, driving utility bills through the roof. That's Kieski's record, expensive and extreme.
The impacts of our growing immigrant population, Wednesday at 10.
Tonight on The Late Show, my guest is Tom Hanks, or you might know him by his full name,
Thomas Handkerchiefs.
A new Late Show tonight on CBS.
All right, Jacob is back. We're keeping an eye on things tomorrow with an alert day in the forecast.
Yeah, we got a lot going on the next couple of days. It's going to continue to be windy and mild with the storms moving in Wednesday evening, and then the temperatures are going to drop dramatically. You notice the low temperature for Wednesday or for Thursday morning. It's going to be in the upper 50s. By the afternoon, though, we have a temperature likely around 50. So the temperatures are going to fall throughout the day. Could see some showers in the morning, but it will be dry by the trick-or-treating hours. It will be windy and cool, though. And then for next week, we have more rain in the forecast. The temperatures will be cooler compared to today, but actually still a little bit above normal. The good news, though, is that we're likely going to see improvements to the drought condition.
Weather is often a challenge on Halloween night. I always remember that. Thanks for joining us, folks. Have a great night.